So today we're going to talk about, um, you want to build a website. So you know that just having a pretty website isn't enough. You need to have some convincing content on it. So now that you know that, you have worked on creating content that's good for a quality website. Now, what do you do with it all? So we're going to cover that. We're going to try and do that in about 20 minutes or so, and then open it up for some questions for just about anything you want to ask. So here we go. So the first thing I would say is you want to own your domain name. So there, with a website, there's the domain name. For mine, it's thestorywebs.com. That's called the domain name. You purchase it from a domain registrar. If you don't have one yet, buy it, and you can use it with whoever you're going to end up doing it with. So you then have your domain name. And with the domain registrar, the domain registrar is actually, it's like a traffic cop, and it points. So when somebody wants to go to your website, the domain registrar says, hey, your domain is over on this server over here or that server over there, go to it. Oh, you want to send an email? Oh, you want to go over there. Oh, you have an instance of Salesforce, you want to go over there. So it points to whatever place that's associated with your domain name to go to. There's a company called Hover. I think they're actually quite good. They're a part of Tucows. For any of you who have got any geek background in you, you will have heard of that name before. But Hover's a quality name. There's other folks out there that you can buy from as well. Okay. A domain registrar will also give you an option for email. But that's going to cost you somewhere between 20 and 50 bucks a year. A little bit more money, you can actually get a proper email system with Gmail or Outlook. Okay. Now, you're going to do a website, you can build it yourself. There's all kinds of systems out there for building a website yourself. There's probably hundreds of them. But some of the main ones out there, Wix, Squarespace, if you're into WordPress is another one. We build all of our websites in WordPress. If you're gonna do a website in WordPress, make sure you have a really good system to be able to help walk you through exactly how you do it, because it's just a little more complicated than the folks at Wix and Squarespace. Okay. There's a resource called WP Beginner, which can be very helpful. You can host with a company called Green Geeks or SiteGround, or again, there's hundreds or thousands of other companies out there that you can host with. We think both of these are really good. Green Geeks is great because you can call them for support. And not all these companies allow you to call them for support. Okay. Now, or you can get somebody else to build it for you. Now, the question normally people ask is, how much does a website cost? And that's kind of like going into a GM dealership or a Mercedes dealership or whatever dealership you got and say, well, how much does a car cost? Well, it depends. So I've taken a shot at it here. We can get you a website, which I would call a good enough website. You're not going to be ashamed of the website, but it's not a great looking website. It's a good enough website. 1,100 bucks for a 10-page website. You can get one that is a very good quality. We can do that for 2,300. Or if you want the top of the line quality, you're looking in the $5,000 range. Again, these numbers are approximate. We walk through exactly what you need to make sure we can give you exactly what you need. Okay.
So Trevor, let's call. So we're all trying to build a website.
Yep.
On the call here. Clearly, one has a build it yourself. I've tried building a few things with wood, and it hasn't worked out so well. So what's the difference in cost, and is it even worth, given all the issues of domain and all the things that you've talked about, having a third party look at your site, is it even worth considering building it yourself? Like seriously, like as opposed to bringing someone who does this all the time. I mean, I could build a deck that no one would want to sit on, but I also know, well, I'm going to build a deck that's going to last for 30 years. Like, I'm not sure it's even a comparison, really.
Well, it really comes down to you is time and money. How much, if you don't have any money for the budget for it, you want to go with something like a Wix and a Squarespace space that you're going to start with something that's going to cost you 10, 20, 30, 40 bucks a month. And that's what's going to cost you throughout it. But you're going to have to invest the time to figure it out. Okay. And these things are built so if you want a specific look, it's harder to work with it if you want a specific look and you're not ready to have the look be.
Well, I'm trying to watch the thing with Trevor.
If you want to have it to have a specific look, it's very difficult to do that outside of the templates that they provide you with. You want to actually stick closely with the templates.
I see.
Okay, so you can do that. Again, if you've got some budget to work with, I think you're better off getting somebody else to do it for you. So, and I'm going to walk into some of the things that if you ask somebody else to build it for you, what do you want to make sure you get? And this will help you think about some of the things that, you know, when we build it, you know, you're talking about when somebody builds a deck, you could go out and build a deck, but somebody who's a pro really knows all the little details about how to make sure the foundation is right, how everything else is right to do it. So, and the other thing, Mike, is not everybody on here is building a website. There are some people who have an existing website who may be making changes to it. I don't know the exact piece to that. Okay.
Thanks.
So here's features you want to have on your website if you're going to do it. And you know what? Let me just do this because I don't like how the format is here. And I'm just going to make sure that we've got a little more space to work with. So if you're using WordPress, you'll find it much easier if it's built using what's called a builder. There's lots of different builders out there. It means that it's more drag and drop as opposed to coding. And one that we use for our clients is called Elementor, and we think it's an excellent builder to use. For those of you who are my age and older, you may remember the term WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. But we're not talking back WordPress and, sorry, not WordPress, WordPerfect. For those of you who remember working on WordPerfect and Lotus, they talked about WYSIWYG, right?
Right.
So anyways, there's for, millennials will be a little confused about that one. In any case, you want to make sure your website is tested. If you build your website, test it and make sure it looks good on multiple platforms, multiple platforms and screen sizes and operating systems. Okay, because you want a consistent experience, whether they're using an Android phone or an iPhone, or whether they're using a Mac or a laptop or a Windows desktop. We want to make sure it's a good experience. You want to make sure that the website is built responsive. So that's related to what we're talking about here. And we tend to think of mobile optimized is when we build a website for somebody, we optimize it. So we'll go and look and see how it operates, especially on the homepage, and we'll make sure that the spacing's right, that things get laid out correctly. There's lots of different things that we do to just make sure that it looks good and is easy to read on a mobile device. Okay, a header. We want to have something called a scroll up header. I'm going to show you here, this is not a scroll up header. See this website? See how you've got this big header here and you've got this here, and you've got almost no space to read anything. We don't think that's a very good experience at all for anybody to be using. So, and let me just see here. I'm just trying to remember here. I'm pretty sure we've got a scroll up. No, this one here, the header gets a little bit smaller. And I think we've got this on here, story webs. And oh no, we don't. Here we go. Over time, we've done it on different websites. So this website here, when you scroll down, the menu disappears, but as soon as you scroll up, the menu appears again. It means you've got lots of space to read. We think that this is a very good thing. This is something we started doing on websites a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we do it on most of the websites that we do. Okay. Anti-spam measures. Okay, you want a spam catcher. If you're going to have a lot of people coming to your website, you will get spam of people filling out your contact form. Some of you don't need to quite worry about that, but the more your website is found, the more you're going to get that. There's a number of different ways to introduce anti-spam measures. We put a honeypot in all of the forms that we do for our clients now, and a honeypot is a hidden form that only a computer would fill out, a hidden form field. So if it's filled out, then we say that that's spam. But that doesn't catch everything. That only catches a small piece of them. We use a spam catcher that we pay for on a monthly basis. It's called CleanTalk. And it actually looks at all of them and looks for different keywords. So if, you know, it has words like porn or porno or anything like that, it'll say this is spam. But it's more than just looking for that. It looks for a lot of different trends and different kinds of words, and it catches the spam. You never see it. For me, that probably saves me getting about 30 emails a day. And I still, even with that, I still probably get about 3 or 4 spams that come through, but it takes care of most of them. Some of you might say, well, what about those CAPTCHA things that you can get? Well, a CAPTCHA is one of those things where you click on a button or you have to wait and you click on a button and then it says you can send it. That's okay. The ones where you have to fill out a picture and you have to do multiples of them, those drive me crazy. Those take me so long to do sometimes. Those, I believe, are terrible for helping you to get people fill out a form. I don't recommend a CAPTCHA. We recommend a service called CleanTalk, or there's others out there that you can use. Okay. Anti-malware or brute force protection. We use a plugin for WordPress called WordFence. And it does a number of things to help protect your website, just kind of like an your antivirus does on your computer. Okay. Images need to be optimized. So you want your images to be the right resolution, and you want them to be the right size. So we use a tool called Smush. There's a free one called EWWW Image Optimizer that you can use, and it will help optimize your images so you don't have high resolution images, which the problem with a high resolution image is your screen won't show high resolution images. It'll look the same as a lower resolution image, but it takes a long time to load. Okay. A content distributed network. If you are selling to people across the continent or around the world, you want a CDN. What a CDN does is it takes a piece of your website and it puts it on servers all around the world. So if I'm in Vancouver, a portion of my website gets loaded from that server in British Columbia, and the rest of it comes from my server that's sitting Actually, I think the server that I've got is actually sitting in Dallas for my website. And it means that they both get there, one gets a little bit there ahead of time, starts loading your website faster, and the rest of it then follows suit. This is for getting your website to load faster. Again, if you're selling across the country or around the world, or if your server is more than about an hour's flight away from you, then you want to consider making sure you have a CDN. So we have servers for our clients in Montreal, in Chicago, and in Michigan. So all of them are about an hour away. That's fine. It means a CDN isn't going to make too much difference at all for something loading locally. So titles, you want to use the proper heading tags. Your main title is an H1. Your secondary titles are titled with H2, and your tertiary ones are H3. This is kind of code stuff you need to think about, but it's basically the importance of your headings. You want to make sure that your images are size and resolution optimized. So it's great that you've got a tool, but the best thing is if the people who are designing and developing your website actually make sure that the images are the right size. I often see this on people who've done websites themselves. They'll have images that are this big. They're actually fitting in an area this big. It means that you've got something that's probably 4 or 5 times the size it needs to be. We don't think that's a good thing. You want to do some things with search engine optimization, and there's a plugin called Yoast, and it helps you to put in all of what I would call the main thing that I think that's important is the SERP metadata. So SERP metadata, let me show you what that is. If I was to look for web design and I was going to do search on web design, I would come up with lots of different companies. You can see here that, surprise, surprise, my company comes up first in a search that I see. Now, first of all, I want to let you know that doesn't mean that I'm in first place on the map. It means I'm on the first place on the map for me, because Google knows that I go to my website a bunch. So it helps to escalate things. I believe I am in the top 3 actually in Kitchener, but that's something that we look at. But if we were to come down here, we can see here we've got somebody who has designed, we've got a bunch of different folks who have done their website. And it always surprises me to see this of peers where they haven't optimized their search engine results page content or metadata. What Google will normally do is they will take the name of the page, they will take the name of the website, and they'll jam them together, and then they'll take the first 156 characters and put them up here. You can tell Google what you want it to say. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because it makes it more compelling to click through to the website when there's something that's compelling. When you see a ... you kind of wonder, well, what is that? And that's probably not ideal for getting me to click through to a Nerd's World. Okay, make sense, folks? Okay. A favicon. Okay, a favicon is this little thing up here. Okay, it's a detail thing that we do. Now you know. If you're playing Trivial Pursuit, they might have it on there. Google Analytics. We put Google Analytics on your website because we want you to be able to understand what's going on with your website, how it's performing, how many people are coming, where they're coming from, all that sort of fun stuff. Added to Google Search Console tools. Okay, so your website needs to be added into Google Search Console tools. It used to be called Google Webmaster, and this is really where you can find out what Google thinks about your website. It's also where you can upload your XML map. An XML map is a technical map which helps Google understand which helps Google understand how your website is structured so it can better index your website. Okay. If your website is built in WordPress, you need to own your website. And if you want to move it to another host provider other than the one you're working with, you need to be able to do that anytime you want to. You need to own your website. Okay. If you're using something like Wix or Squarespace, you're stuck with them. You don't get to move it off of their platform. Okay. And if you're getting another company to develop your website, they should include stock photos, should be included. Standard stock photos should be included in the cost. Now I say standard stock photos because stock photos can cost you 50, 100, thousands, even thousands of dollars to purchase. Okay. Okay, some advanced stuff. So this is all the stuff I would say is standard that we would recommend when we're doing a website. Some of the additional stuff that might be a little more advanced. For companies that have the budget and they have a lot of traffic coming on mobile, we would recommend getting a dedicated design for mobile. So the experience is going to be unique for mobile, unique for smartphone users when they come to your website. Because there's going to be people who are coming to your website when they're, for those of you in Toronto, when they're sitting on transit, when they're sitting in the doctor's office. Some of them will come to you and you want that experience to be really good. It'll be fine otherwise, but this is a fully optimized experience. If you have high volume on your mobile side of your website, I'm not sure, there's only one of you on here that may fall on this. You may want to get Mobile AMP. Mobile AMP is accelerated mobile pages. This is from Google. It's a stripped down version of the code, the HTML version that's used for creating it. It means it's very fast. Google has a caching system to deliver it very quickly. It means that your website will probably load 1 to 2 seconds faster on mobile. And that is important for some types of products and services that are being sold. Again, most of you, this is not important, but I would say probably Jeremy, that's something, if you have the budget for it, you need to consider getting Mobile AMP. Google Tag Manager implementation. So Google Tag Manager, if you implement Google Tag Manager in a certain way, you can track exactly how people are interacting with your website. Standard Google Analytics will tell you when somebody clicks on a page, but you can set up Google Tag Manager so you understand when somebody clicks on a specific button and what button they clicked on. And that can be helpful, again, for more of a corporate website and where you need to understand exactly how people are operating. Okay. I just gave you a whole lot of stuff there. Any questions? Does anybody feel a little overwhelmed? Okay, I don't see many head shakes. I'm not sure you're telling the truth with your non-head shakes. Okay, hosting. If you're doing WordPress, we've got a couple of them that you might want to work with: Green Geeks, SiteGround, and WP Engine. And that is the last fire hosing I get to provide you with of all of this. I want to open it for questions, but I will make my comment before, or let me ask this, Mike. Mike, did this get you excited about wanting to build the website yourself?
Not myself. It got me excited about hiring you, but you did a good job at making me really nervous about building it myself. But actually, what this whole 7 days has done is I knew building a website had different components, but what has been very clear to me is the content I'm still at my business target way back when, but once I'm really comfortable with that, the mechanics of it, I think I can hand off. But you can't do my copyright, my text the way I want it, the thing, and that's really what I came out from this. If I got a really good pitch with respect to, I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's so clear to me from this that there's the, call it the art and the science. The art is what I'm going to try to explain to people what I do and how I do it and why I'm different. The science is you putting it together. But I think for me, it's so obvious, the science, I'm going to let someone else take care of the science. But the art has been a real wake-up call for me to make sure the website is good. That's this whole last part here is science that I'm going to hand off for sure. That's how I see it for me.
Well, and Mike, I will comment on that. When we create copy for our clients, we interview them. Yeah. And one of our clients, one of our new clients right now is a company that does full service junk collection. And you might think that, hey, you could just read some other people's websites and figure out what they do. Well, no, when we interviewed them, we understand their unique market position and their unique value. And without interviewing them, we'd never get that. So it doesn't matter who we work with. When we create copy for them, we're interviewing them and we're going through a very similar process to what I just laid out for you. Any other questions, folks?
I wouldn't have a question, but certainly a comment. I've been studying how to build my own site for several years, and what you have laid out here in these 7 days is just invaluable. So thank you ever so much.
I would totally agree with you, Dale. Yeah, it's really given me a lot of things to process and think about.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of things to think about. As I've been going back and forth on our website as we've been as we've been going over the last 7 days, Trevor, and it's like, oh, I'm missing that. Oh, I'm missing that. You know.
Yeah, so exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's been really helpful. Really helpful.
Well, I'm glad it has. This has been an extremely interesting process for me, because as I've gone through this, I've got all this information up in my head and I pull it out at different times. And how do I pull this out into a training package? And you know, Mike, you know this really well, is because we've been through this together. You know, I write something and then I'd rewrite it. And then I'd rewrite it again because I'm like, isn't quite where I want it to be. So I've been spending a lot of evenings doing writing and rewriting and just trying to pull things out that is useful, and really trying to think about what's the most useful thing for you to understand. So I'm glad that this has been useful for you. I'm appreciative that you've participated in this today or in the last 7 days. I am putting this in a learning management system, so you will have access to this. If you need access to a specific day, let me know. If you need it right away, I can send you the YouTube link so you can watch it or rewatch it. But I am putting this in a learning management system. I'm also planning, as I went through all of this, there's so many more things that are a part of this, especially for people who want to be successful. I'm looking to take this. I was wondering as I started on this, do I have enough of things of value to provide a monthly service where we're providing continual training, office hours, where people can ask various questions when they're on their way, and a few other things. And I think the answer is yes on that. So you will be hearing on that. There's a few of you who I think would value from that in particular, but I'm glad you found this of value. And it's been fun to go through this with you. So thank you folks for attending and being a part of this. And I will ask one more time, any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to wish you good success and expect to hear a follow-up from me asking you to do a review for me.
Trevor, I didn't realize until now, and Stephen's just mentioned that he has his own website, or your company has their own website. And I actually thought this was from scratch because you actually said website creation manual. But in fact, if Stephen got as much out of it, for me, it was from scratch. But if he got as much out in terms of recognizing his thing, it's really a website creation and optimization. It's not just creation. If someone who has a website is thinking, gosh, I've missed this, then really you've got a broader target audience than just someone like me who's just trying to start a new website. I just thought, when I was looking at your title, website creation, it's much more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. I'm in that position, right? I've contracted somebody to do our website, but this has helped me to now evaluate our website with a new critical lens, because I know that there are some inefficiencies. So that's been the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, for sure. You should rebrand your title a little bit there, sir.
Thank you, Mike. So the other thing that I'm going to be asking you folks as well is if there's something else, is there something else that would be valuable for you to learn? You know, we've been through all these different things and I covered some things on a very cursory level. If you were to pick one or two other topics you wanted to really, that we missed covering or didn't cover, or something that we were cursory on and you wanted to really dig deeper in it, what would those things be? I would really like to know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to comment that I found the questions about what are you trying to achieve in your website really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And I go back to the era, I did my first website by hand typing in HTML code, but Trevor did my university website and I'm really happy with it. And I know that it doesn't make sense for me to try and actually write the website myself anymore. But the questions about what are you trying to achieve, that was really, really helpful.
Okay, so here if you know anybody who is in interest in engineering, have them go to Wayne's website. He's got some very, very cool videos on here, and I would say the beginner ones, some of the initial ones, anybody can understand. You get a little further, and you understand you're in over your head, but
but why was Wayne taking the course then? He's got a website. You've done it. It's optimized. I'm just kind of curious.
Because I want to do some more websites, Mike.
Oh, I see.
On completely different things.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and Mike, I see the power of websites if they're well crafted. And so there's some other areas that I still want to work in, and some friends I'm working with. I'm working a bit with Jeremy, and I really want to see these websites have the power and effect that they can have. So I wanted to fine tune fill in the gaps I had. That's why I'm here.
And I'm sure even if Wayne wanted to, he could go back on that website that he has now, and it could be improved much more significantly, because we really didn't get into writing copy on his website. We were transferring, we were mostly on the design side for that website.